that someone took that virus that came from a bat and genetically altered it so that it would expose humans to the disease that the bats would get. That's coronavirus, and that's what happened. And many of our intelligence agencies think that that's how the coronavirus started. And they think it started in the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, Canada. Under him was Dr. Anthony Fauci, which ran the NIAID, dealing with infectious diseases. Dr. Collins and Dr. Fauci gave Dr. Peter Daszak, who ran EcoHealth and is a British zoologist, millions of dollars in grants, taxpayer money. And Dr. Daszak took some of that money and he gave it to the Wuhan lab. And when he gave it to the Wuhan lab, the instructions to the Wuhan lab were to use the money to, quote, understand the risk of bat coronavirus emergence. What does that mean? The purpose of this project at the Wuhan lab, funded in part by American taxpayer dollars, was to take the bat virus, the virus in the bat, modify it, and make it 10,000 times more infectious for lab mice. We also know that Dr. Daszak was trying to convince the American people and the people of the world that the virus started naturally, that it didn't start from his gain-of-function research. We know that he rounded up a bunch of epidemiologists to write a fake article and start publishing it and others in a lot of scientific, professional scientific magazines to try to convince the world that the bat virus jumped to human beings naturally. We know that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well, and I'm sure you will be fired up just as I am after watching this video by Senator John Kennedy. This man has been hitting the nail on the head over and over again when it comes to the deep state and how the bureaucrats have been lying to us all about the origins of COVID-19. Now, I know it's been a couple of years since the pandemic began, but the truth about what really happened still matters, and we can't afford to let the elites sweep it under the rug. So let's talk about it. Let's break down what Kennedy had to say, and I'll give you my take on it as a proud right-wing patriot. First off, let me say this. Senator Kennedy nailed it when he quoted Martin Luther King Jr. about the arc of the moral universe bending towards justice. Now, I've always believed that the truth, no matter how long it takes to come out, will eventually surface. And right now, we're starting to see the truth about the Wuhan lab leak, something that we, as American patriots, have been calling out from day one. Finally, someone's holding these bureaucrats accountable. It blows my mind that it took this long, but at least now we're seeing some consequences for those who misuse taxpayer dollars, your dollars, my friends, and caused untold harm to this country and the world. But let's dive deeper into the truth that Senator Kennedy was uncovering.
I want to talk briefly on another topic. Martin King famously said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Smart man, he was right. And if you believe in the fundamental goodness of humans, I'm not saying there's not some evil in all of us, but the fundamental goodness of humans, and you know he was right. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. This month, we finally got justice with respect to one of the individuals and one of the companies that, in my opinion, helped cause the coronavirus. Now, let me explain what I mean. I'm talking about a gentleman by the name of Dr. Peter Daszak. We've all heard that name. The name of his company is EcoHealth. COVID, as we know, killed 20 million people across the world. It caused $25 trillion of damage across the planet Earth. Where did COVID come from? COVID, of course, coronavirus is a virus. That's why we call it the coronavirus. It had to come from one or two places. First, it could have occurred naturally. It started in a bat, we know. Our scientists tell us that. And then viruses, which are very aggressive and very interested in self-survival, the virus jumped from another animal into another animal, which was consumed by a human being, and that's how the coronavirus became a human virus. Occurs naturally, jumps from one animal to another. But there's another way that the coronavirus could have happened. It could have been engineered. We know that the FBI, and we know that the Department of Energy, and we know that the CIA, and we know that the Germany's top intelligence service all think that the coronavirus was engineered. What do I mean by engineering? Engineering a virus. That means they think that someone took that virus that came from a bat and genetically altered it so that it would expose humans to the disease that the bats would get. That's coronavirus, and that's what happened. And many of our intelligence agencies think that that's how the coronavirus started. And they think it started in the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, Canada, where the first folks who got ill first appeared. What does this have to do with Mr. Daszak, Dr. Daszak? The Wuhan Institute of Virology, the Chinese company, or the Chinese lab that was conducting this research on engineering the virus, was funded in part with American taxpayer dollars. It was funded in part by Dr. Peter Daszak and his company EcoHealth. Dr. Daszak was good friends and professional colleagues with Dr. Tony Fauci and with Dr. Francis Collins. Dr. Collins ran the National Institutes of Health. Under him was Dr. Anthony Fauci, which ran the NIAID, dealing with infectious diseases. Dr. Collins and Dr. Fauci gave Dr. Peter Daszak, who ran EcoHealth and is a British zoologist, millions of dollars in grants, taxpayer money. And Dr. Daszak took some of that money and he gave it to the Wuhan lab. And when he gave it to the Wuhan lab, the instructions to the Wuhan lab were to use the money to, quote, understand the risk of bat coronavirus emergence. What does that mean? The purpose of this project at the Wuhan lab, funded in part by American taxpayer dollars, was to take the bat virus, the virus in the bat, modify it, and make it 10,000 times more infectious for lab mice. And that's what they did. And many commentators and many news accounts say that what Dr. Daszak, with the money from American taxpayers that he got from Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins, what they were doing was conducting gain-of-function research. You've heard that term. Gain-of-function research just means taking, in this context, an animal virus, a bat virus, altering it genetically so it'll jump into a human. Pretty dangerous stuff. Now, Dr. Fauci has said that didn't happen. Dr. Collins says that didn't happen, and Dr. Daszak says that didn't happen. But everybody else says it did. The FBI says it did. The CIA says it did. The top spy agency in Germany says it did. The Department of Energy says it did. So what happened? What happened? Well, we do know that the first two people that we know of in the world who got the coronavirus, the first two humans, were not people in the city of Wuhan. They were workers in the Wuhan lab. Remember, the coronavirus supposedly hit, January, February? These two people working in the lab got it in November. We also know that when the virus became really contagious, other than these two people who were working in the Wuhan lab, it became contagious in Wuhan, China, a few miles away from the Wuhan lab. Pretty curious. We also know that when word first broke of the coronavirus, Dr. Fauci learned about it. You know who one of the first person he called was? Dr. Peter Daszak, and said, what's going on? We also know that Dr. Daszak was trying to convince the American people and the people of the world that the virus started naturally, that it didn't start from his gain-of-function research. We know that he rounded up a bunch of epidemiologists to write a fake article and start publishing it and others in a lot of scientific, professional scientific magazines to try to convince the world that the bat virus jumped to human beings naturally. We know that. That's all come out. We also know that after the coronavirus happened, that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins, instead of taking money away from Dr. Daszak, gave him extra money. We're not sure why, but he did. Now, as a result of this, and let me say, you say, how did it escape the Wuhan lab? I just want to make this point. A molecular biologist at Rutgers University, Dr. Richard Ebright, he studied the Wuhan lab. He said that its safety standards were about the same level of a typical dentist's office. I mean, you would think if you're going to do this gain-of-function research, you do it in an environment so that once you take the bat virus and make it a human virus 10,000 times more contagious, you would try to keep it within the lab. Wuhan didn't do a very good job of that, we know now. Well, there were denials back and forth, so we meaning the Congress, asked the Department of Health and Human Services to study this, and they did, and they announced their decision this month. The Department of Health and Human Services has cut off all funding and formally debarred Dr. Peter Daszak and Eco Health Alliance, of which he was the former president for 5 years, based on evidence uncovered by a congressional committee. This is what the Department of Health and Human Services found. According to Professor Ebright, who's read the report. He says that, quote, Eco Health Alliance provably defrauded the United States government, provably breached contractual terms of U.S. government grants, and through the reckless gain-of-function research it conducted in Wuhan, probably caused the COVID-19 pandemic, killing 20 million people and costing $25 trillion. Wow. That's what the professor said. The Department of Health and Human Services, in its official debarment letter of Dr. Daszak and EcoHealth Alliance, said that EcoHealth and Dr. Daszak routinely ignored government oversight requests, failed to report dangerous gain-of-function experiments conducted at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and produced a required research report 2 years late. It took a while, and some will call this only partial justice. But we now have justice. And at least for 5 years, and I hope forever, Dr. Peter Daszak and any company with which he is affiliated will no longer receive taxpayer dollars from the National Institutes of Health. Because he was doing, according to many people smarter than me and many news reports, he was funding gain of research in Wuhan. And he also was given money by Dr. Fauci and by Dr. Collins to study viruses in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, and other Southeast Asian nations. Pretty scary stuff. And we know how it all turned out.
First of all, the fact that Dr. Peter Daszak and his company EcoHealth Alliance received U.S. taxpayer funding for their research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology should make every American's blood boil. That's right, your hard-earned money was funneled to a Chinese lab that we now know was not only conducting experiments with dangerous bat coronaviruses, but likely conducting gain-of-function research that makes viruses more dangerous to humans. And let's talk about gain-of-function for a minute. For those who might not know, this is the kind of research where scientists genetically alter viruses so they can spread more easily or become more deadly. What could possibly go wrong with that, right? It's like handing a loaded gun to a toddler and then acting surprised when it goes off. We've been told time and again that COVID-19 came from a bat in a wet market in Wuhan. But Senator Kennedy is absolutely right. Intelligence agencies like the FBI, CIA, and even Germany's top spy agency believe the virus was engineered. They've got the evidence, but we were told to shut up and believe the official narrative. Now let's talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci for a second. This man has had his fingers all over this scandal. Kennedy hit the nail on the head when he said that Fauci knew what was going on. We even saw him calling Dr. Daszak in the early days of the outbreak. What? Because Fauci knew that this could very well be linked to his own funding, his own connections. But instead of being transparent, he pushed a narrative that it was all just a natural occurrence. Right, Fauci? Natural my foot. You can't trust a word that man says. He knew the truth, and instead of telling the American people, he tried to hide it, manipulate the situation, and save his own skin. But it gets worse. We learned that Dr. Daszak was busy rounding up scientists to publish fake articles to convince the world that the virus came from nature. That's right, these guys were actively trying to cover their tracks, hiding the fact that they were responsible for funding the very research that likely caused the outbreak. And you know what else? Dr. Collins, Dr. Fauci, they didn't just sit back and do nothing. Oh no, they doubled down. After the virus started wreaking havoc, instead of cutting ties with Daszak and EcoHealth, they gave them more taxpayer money. Are you kidding me? That's your government at work, folks, protecting their own while you're out here suffering. And this is the part that really gets me. Senator Kennedy talks about how the first 2 people who contracted COVID were Wuhan lab workers. This is the smoking gun. These 2 individuals didn't catch the virus from some bat at a wet market. They got it from the lab they worked in. So, when people say the virus didn't come from the lab, they're just denying the obvious facts. And here's the timeline we need to remember. The virus started to spread in Wuhan, China, in January or February. But these 2 lab workers were infected months earlier, in November. How is that not the smoking gun pointing directly at the Wuhan lab? Now, let's talk about the Department of Health and Human Services finally taking action. Senator Kennedy said that they've officially debarred Dr. Daszak and EcoHealth from receiving more taxpayer money. It's about time. But let's be real here, this isn't going to undo the damage. This virus has killed millions, cost trillions in global damage, and it all could have been avoided if these bureaucrats weren't playing God with our health. Folks, this is a wake-up call. This isn't just about COVID-19. This is about what happens when our government officials, our so-called experts, are more interested in making deals with China and protecting their own interests than in telling the truth. This is about trust, or rather, the total lack of it. As a right-wing patriot, I can tell you this. We have to hold these people accountable. We can't let them get away with this. We have to demand transparency, demand accountability, and most importantly, demand that our taxpayer dollars are used to protect this country, not fund shady experiments in a lab halfway across the world. This is our fight now, folks. And we must stay vigilant. We must keep pushing for the truth, because without it, we'll never fix the corruption in our system. The arc of the moral universe might bend towards justice, but only if we make it bend. It's up to us, patriots. Let's get to work. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you agree with me, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and let's get the word out. We need more patriots in this fight. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and keep fighting for America.